I'm going to share a screen. Okay. So last time we talked about the Sefiros, and the Sefiros are the way Hashem relates to us, and we talk about the various different aspects of various different Sefiros and what they all represent in very brief terms. But besides what the Sefiros represent in terms of Hashem, how Hashem relates to us, the Sefiros also represent the way in which we relate to Hashem. Makes sense because obviously any relationship is based on two sides. One side relates to the other, and the other side relates to the first one. So therefore, if Hashem relates to us in the various different means which are described by the Sefiros, it makes sense to say that we should relate to Hashem also in the various different ways which are represented by the Sefiros. So last week, as I said, we talked about how Hashem relates to us and various different mixtures of Chesed, Rachamim, and so on and so forth, which the Sefiros represent. They're going to go through Rav Dessler, Michta Milio, and something which he has about how we're supposed to relate to Hashem through the Sefiros. But first, he gives a little bit of an introduction over here, and we're going to start over here. Let's go into this a little bit more depths. We'll get a very brilliant light in matters which have to do with the core issues of the world. It's one of the Mekubalim, one of the writers of the 19th century. He writes in his Sefer called Piskei Shorim, B'Shem HaRizal, name HaRizal, Shekmo she'ein lanu shum tfisa b'asagas atzmusi yizborach. We really can't perceive, like we mentioned last week, what Hashem is all about. That's beyond our capacity. We have no capacity to understand that, and we're really not supposed to try and figure it out because it's beyond our capacity. But what the Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac Chaver says is, we also can't understand Hashem's midos from his perspective, because everything which he does and everything which is every way he relates is so infinite and so beyond our capacity. So by definition, we can only relate to a little part of it. Okay, because he and his midos are one thing. And if he's infinite and beyond our capacity to understand, so is midos. All which we can try and understand, so it's only the definitions of how his influence which comes to us. We, the people who receive. And even these things, that's an important point. We can only understand them and imagine them to ourselves. Only based on our own midos. In other words, I can't. The Rambam says in his introduction to Avos, he says, you can have crazy dreams, right? And you can have purple elephants flying through the air, right? Pink polka dotted kangaroos jumping into space, whatever. But you can only dream about things which you've experienced. You don't have to experience directly. You might have read about them. You might have seen them in pictures, but your dreams are not going to include things which are beyond your imagination. And Brown defines imagination as things that you've experienced, things which you've come into contact with, and they can all be mixed together. Like the elephants can be purple, because even though elephants are not normally purple, but you can only experience things in your dreams which you actually have had some connection with. Okay, so so we can only imagine things when they tap into something with which we have had experience. If you've never seen in your life an anteater, you're not going to be able to imagine an anteater, right? Try as much as you can, but it's going to come up like something which you already know. You won't be able to imagine the animal itself. So everything which we imagine, everything we experience, has to do with our experiences in life. The more we experience in life, the more we can imagine things, the more we can think of things, the more we can dream about things. But that's true about midos as well. If you never got angry, I can't describe to you what anger is. If you never got sad, I can't describe to you what sadness is. If you never got happy, I can't describe to you what happiness is. You can only, because you've been angry, sad, and happy. So therefore, if I talk about anger, I know what we're talking about. Talk about sadness, I know what we're talking about, and so on and so forth. So what he says here is that we can only relate to Hashem's midos based on our own midos, because that's the only way you can understand that something. Shem Kach, and he says, for this purpose, we were given midos for this purpose. In order we should be able to think and feel, and analyze through them, How Hashem relates to us in this world. That's that when it says Hashem made man in his image. That's what it means. Obviously, Hashem has no image, right? Hashem has traits, which he wants us to understand. And he created us with those traits, so we should be able to understand them about him. So the word tselem actually comes from the word sel, which means a shadow or reflection. So Hashem created us to be a reflection. So now, if it says in the Chumash, Hashem gets angry at us, I know what it means. Hashem get angry. When it says Hashem is happy with us, I know what it means that Hashem is happy with us. So we have all these midos in us in order to be able to understand the midos of Hashem and relate to them. The explanation is the only way to recognize any spiritual existence is to look inside. Only by referencing what goes on within me can I understand anything about anything else spiritual in the world, including you. I can only understand you if I understand me. And I can see how you relate to me and how things which I have, my traits, my character, my midos are different than yours, they're similar, and then I can begin to understand you. If I don't have any midos and I don't know anything about midos, I couldn't understand anybody, not just Hashem. Because based on our own spiritual makeup, we can understand everybody else's spiritual makeup and Hashem's spiritual makeup to extend the world out, we can understand it. So it's a fascinating thing. He says, like, even things which we can't really understand that's beyond time. Hashem is beyond time. We can't understand what's beyond time. But we know that time is experienced sometimes very slowly, very fast. In other words, doing something which we are bored stiff doing, time goes slowly. Doing something which we find very exciting, time goes fast. So you can know there's certain things which makes time seem quicker, time seems slower. So that's how we can relate. We can't relate to something which is beyond time because we never had that experience. We can try and talk about it a little bit based on our experience of experiencing time, either expanding or contracting. And all the other midos we can only understand based on our capacity to understand. Okay, now Getter has Sefiros, the parameters of the Sefiros. Sefiros are Kedoshos. The Sefiros which you talk about, V'divrei Ramchal, Zal b'Sefer Klach B'Yisrael, according to Reb Moshe Chaim Luzzatto in his Sefer, they are the lights which Hashem reveals to us. But in another place, the Ramchal writes, a fascinating idea. In other words, one place he writes, Hashem illuminates us differently depending on what he wants to show us. But another place he writes, no, Hashem's light is always the same. But how we receive it is always different. His light, angel is never different. He lights, illuminates everything equally. All the changes and all the limitations or definitions, chesed, such as we call something chesed, or something din, or something rachmim, and rak mitzvah makabel. They only come from the recipient. Because the windows of our heart are dirty. They don't fully bring in the light. This dirt, this darkness, it causes to be limitations and hidden aspects. The more a person cleans the windows of his soul, he'll get more light. So it's an amazing concept, which is really all of us should feel all the time that Hashem is doing chesed with us. That's what we should feel all the time. But we don't. Why? Because we don't get the light. Our lens, it's like a person has dirty glasses, right? He says the windows are dirty, the same idea. You don't see everything, right? You have a smudge there, you have a streak there, you don't see everything. You see part of it, but you don't see all of it. And the smudge or the streak on your glasses makes it seem like there's something dark or something missing or something blurry. But it's really your glasses which are doing it to you, not the light itself. The light is the same light. If you're nearsighted or farsighted, right? You can't see everything properly, but it's still the same thing out there. Just your sight is limited. So the mashal that they give is that the more you clean your lens, the more you clean your window, the more you correct your sight, the more you'll see the light. But in the meantime, nobody can be completely clean, and therefore we see things in different ways. We see things in negative ways as well, because that's the way we experience them. There's another mashal which is given, which is that the mashal of a what's it called, a prism. A prism, all light which comes down as white light, right? And then a prism refracts the light and puts it into different bands: red, yellow, green, blue, right? Then there's also a paint on the wall, right? If you have paint, any color on the wall, the light is still white. But the paint, as we know, is made in a special way that absorbs all the light except for the green light, which reflects back, or the blue light, which reflects back, and so on and so forth. So all light is really white. How it then becomes different colors has to do with what it's illuminating, what it's shining on. So therefore, if it shines through the prism, it's going to be broken up into bandwidth of red, bandwidth of yellow, and so on and so forth. If it shines on a color, it's going to reflect that color. But the light is the same light. It's just how it's manipulated, how it's changed by what it hits. So too, the Ramchal says, the light of Hashem is all chesed. How you receive it is different. And that's why Chazal say, in the eventual future, when Hashem wants to bring the world to its completion, so he brings out the sun, very powerful sun. And Shlakish says that sun is it's a bracha for the tzaddikim, and it's a klola for the rishonim. It rewards the tzaddikim, and it punishes the rishonim. It's the same light. But again, when a tzaddik enjoys that light, he enjoys it as tremendous chesed, because he was connected to the light in that way. When a rasha experiences the light, he sees it as tremendous punishment, because he didn't connect to it the right way. So it's the same light. How the person receives it makes all the difference. Okay? So as he says, so it comes out that how the lights are defined on high, as precisely the according to our midos as we receive them. And according to this, we can understand so we can get some sort of understanding of the lower seven Sefiros. We can understand them a little bit. How we experience them. To understand what they're supposed to teach us, by how we experience them. And like Hashem reflects us. We reflect Hashem reflects us, and therefore we can understand a little bit about them. I will show you short, but the highest Sefiros. Keser, Chachma, Bina, Shem Shoshei, which are the root of the light, and we can't experience what they are, but we know all we know is exists. It's very similar to the idea of intellect versus emotion. I can experience emotion. I can't experience intellect. It doesn't work that way. I can experience things which are emotional, and that's Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes, the lowest seven Sefiros. They're really emotional. The Chachma, I can grasp, right? Not grasp, but it's not. I don't experience it. I can take my Chachma, my something which I learned, and try and experience it by using my powers of imagery, or by creating something, painting based on things which I know. But Chachma itself is not something which you experience. You can use it to create experiences. So anything which is above the top three Sefiros, Keser, Chachma, Bina, or Chachma, Bina, Das, that is intellect. And I can understand or not understand it, but I don't experience it. I can bring it to the level of experience. Those are the seven lowest. Okay, as we'll explain how we experience that in a couple of minutes. It says in neighbor Mamar Sukkos Borish B'To Yesh, Sukkos, which is the light of negating ourselves by going after Sukkah. We spoke a little bit about this. But then we spoke about how influence comes from above to below. With God's help, through the intellect and down to the emotions. That's we will start with the top ones, Chesed, which is the top of the lower seven. Malchus, the last of the lower seven. Kind of talking about sagas halev. Here we're going to talk about the opposite, about how our heart perceives things. Darche is alus, how we uplift ourselves, mimata lamala, from below to above. Bechinas malchus the salkalei. There's a concept Kabbalah. The malchus, the experience of Hashem's kingship, leads us higher and higher. And then we're going to go in the opposite direction. Malchus, from the lowest sphere, which is the highest of the lower seven. Chayadua, and you should know also, Yesh Sheva Sefiros the Tuma. We mentioned this last week that they're just like there's Sefiros of Kedusha, there's Sefiros of Tuma. In other words, the Sefiros used the wrong way, abused, are types of Tuma as opposed to types of Kedusha. Rahman al-Yitzlan, may Hashem save us this. Hashem made everything corresponding, good and bad. In every level, yesh bechira, there's a free choice. You're going to lose this meter, this trait, in order to connect to Hashem, or the opposite, to connect to the Sitra Achad, to connect to the other side, which is the Yetzer Hara. And this is the way things work. This now is going to go from the low to the high. Aleph, Malchus. The basic thing a person has to do in life, the first thing, is Kabbalah's O Malchus, to accept Hashem's kingship. And it's the burden of Hashem's kingship. O Malchus v'avoda kavodas ev'elodono. You have to accept, okay, I'm in this world to serve Hashem. Hashem is the king, I'm the subject, I'm here to serve Hashem. So what's my choice at this level? Do I take Hashem as my government, as my governor, as the ruler, or do I take the Yetzer Hara as my ruler? And this is not a one-time decision, right? I can say, okay, now bar mitzvah, I decided I'm going to take Hashem to be my ruler. Very nice. But the next day you give him to the Yetzer Hara. So it's an ongoing battle, an ongoing bechira one's entire life. We hope, as we go older, we make the right choice more often. And we choose to connect to Hashem and serve Hashem. But it's always an ongoing battle. Who am I going to serve? Who's my melech at this point in time? Is it Hashem or is it the other side? So that's the first thing. But whenever I come to do something, the first step is, who am I going to serve? Am I going to serve Hashem or serve the other side? So that's the first choice. In Havdil, in Star Wars, there was the Force. There was the good side of the Force and the bad side of the Force. And you could choose to be connected with the good side of the Force and the bad side of the Force. So the good side of the Force is Kedusha. The bad side of the Force is Tuma. And you can make that decision at any time. Go back and forth and back and forth. Hopefully you make the right decision. So what comes next? First, you make the decision to connect to Hashem. We accept his models. Next is Yisod, the foundation. Bechinas bris. And that Yisod represents the bris. It represents the bris milah specifically, but it represents any covenant. The covenant means like a bond where two parties come together and they make a contract or a commitment or a covenant, as it's called, to each other. So that is connecting with all of your essence and focusing with all of your interests. So this is a higher level. In other words, on the lowest level, I want to serve Hashem. On the next level, I want to connect to Hashem. There's a difference, right? I can serve the king. The king can live in England, in London, and I can be living in Australia, and I can serve the king. But I have no connection to the king. I have no bond to the king. I'm serving the king. If I want to bond to, that's the next level, to feel a bond to the king, to feel a connection to the king. In other words, I'm not just serving him because he's all powerful and mighty and over me. No, I want to connect to him because he gives me meaning. He gives me significance. I feel that if I'm connected to him, I'm on a higher level. I'm functioning in a different way. So what's the bechira here? What choice do you have to make? Who are you going to connect? To Hashem or to the other side? Rav Dessler has a very interesting marshal for this elsewhere. He says, if a person's on a diet, like I should be, right? People like us, people like me who are fat, we should always be on diets. So how does it work? So the way it works, usually it's, I want the ice cream. And then my Yetzer Tov says to me, you shouldn't have the ice cream. So in this case, I'm really the part of me which wants the ice cream. Then I have a Yetzer Tov which comes along and says, no, you shouldn't have the ice cream. The ice cream is outside of me. The Yetzer Tov, the conscience is outside of me. There's a famous children's story, which became a famous children's movie called Pinocchio. And Pinocchio, the conscience, whose name was Jiminy Cricket, was outside of Pinocchio. Pinocchio himself and Jiminy was whatever he wanted to do. He wanted to go have fun. And then there was this annoying conscience, this bug, which kept them bugging and saying, no, you shouldn't do that. It's not good. It's not healthy. It's not right. So a person who very often our bris, our connection, is to the Yetzer Hara, because I want the ice cream. And the Yetzer Tov is outside there and saying, no, you shouldn't have the ice cream. So the ideal is to change that. The ideal is that I want to be good. And the Yetzer is trying to tell me, no, you shouldn't be good. But my real connection is with good. Not I want to be a good person. I want to do the right thing. So that's not easy. Again, it's not easy. And sometimes we slide and sometimes we mess up. But the idea is, what am I connecting with? What's the real me? Am I connecting with Hashem or connecting with the other sides? Okay, so that's the second level. The third level, Gimel, is Hod. Hod, he defines as, and we said Hod is like majesty. Hargashas Yofi, to feel the beauty, the Chavivus Rabba, and to very much enjoy or love, the Masha Chutz Mimenu, something which is outside of you. Imba Kodesh Baruch Hu, whether it's Hashem, Banagasa Ritzono, with his way of conducting the world, and the Rosh Hashem, Toraso, his Torah and Mitzvos, Ol Hefech, or the opposite, Bolam Hazem Sitrach in this world and the other side. So again, using the ice cream muscle, right? So I can find that something very beautiful and very, very aesthetic and very, very tasty and very, very exciting in having ice cream. I don't know if you have noticed this before, but there's one flavor in the world which is always called sinful, decadent, sinfully good. That's chocolate. Chocolate is always described as being sinfully good. I don't know why, but it's a good marshal. In other words, I can find that chocolate is what turns me on. I find that to be tremendously pleasing. I can find that certain kind of music turns me on. I find that to be tremendously pleasing. That is the magic. That's that's what I experience as majestic, as beautiful, as something which which I appreciate. So again, the question is a person drawn to appreciate only things which are material, tashmias, only things which are even negative, like bad music or bad art or something like that? Or does a person find the beauty in something which is Toradic? And so in Torah way of life, the Torah way of behaving oneself, and so on and so forth. There was a great Jewish thinker of the 20th century whose name was Dr. Nathan Birnbaum. Dr. Birnbaum, his great granddaughter works in YBH. I forget her. I think her married name is Kaganoff. He said, really, there should be special kinds of architecture and art which are linked to Torah, that are things which uplift us in appreciating beauty and majesty in a Torah way. And he wanted people to work on these things, that to make of a person, and that's the idea of Noi Mitzvah. Noi Mitzvah means that, or Hider Mitzvah, if you have a beautiful menorah, right, a beautiful talus. So the idea is that you're finding majesty and splendor and beauty in something which is Toradic, something which has to do with your connection with Hashem. So that is a person, again, we're at level 3. A person chose to be under Hashem's governance, Hashem's control. A person chose to connect to Hashem. And a person should find beauty in things which represent Hashem in this world. Okay, that's level 3. Let's go ahead. Okay, Yaakov wrote, I thought it was the opposite. What's the question? I'm not sure I understand what you're asking.
No, it doesn't matter anymore. It was something beforehand.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I didn't get it earlier. Okay, let's go on to the next page. Okay, Netzach. Now, Netzach, we said last week, has two meanings. Something which is eternal or something which is victorious, which winning. So he says here, he's taking it with the idea of winning, fighting a battle, winning. Netzach, the will to be victorious over all things which are stumbling blocks, impediments, prevent me from getting where I should be. And to use any tool at my disposal, any idea which I can come up with. I feel even if I have to submit myself. In other words, let's say sometimes a way which I get around a stumbling block or an impediment is by saying, okay, you know what? I can't do anything about it now. Let's try and find a way around it. And sometimes it means I have to admit I defeat in order to win in the long term. Sometimes you have to retreat in order to win the battle the next day. This happens all the time in the army. So even if it means sometimes retreating in order to advance, that's why Chazal say a tzaddik has to fall 7 times before he finally succeeds. Okay, if they take for every 2 steps forward, you take 1 step backward. So you have to submit yourself in klapei milui ritzonos barach. And the question is, what are you trying to succeed at? And trying to succeed and be victorious in fulfilling the Ratzon Hashem, or Ritzonos Olam Hazeh, or the Ratzon, the will, the desire for this world. So this midah is once you have submit to Hashem's malchus, once you want to make a bris with Hashem, once you decided this is what's beautiful to me in this world. Now I put all my power into it, into trying to overcome the obstacles and succeeding in doing what's correct based on all the first 3 principles, which I learned. Who to accept as my king, who I want to make a connection with, what I find to be beautiful and pleasing. Now I want to fight the battles necessary in order for me to work out in this world. Okay, so that is the Netzach. Hey, Tiferes. Tiferes is Hapchanas Hashlemus V'Harmonia, harmony. So this Tiferes is related to bringing balance, putting things in harmony, making things working together. Bigud v'chud ha'afachim, and this works by uniting and bringing together opposites. B'shifa mucheres, in a united quest. In other words, let's say you're a teacher, right? So teacher has to have all sorts of tools at his disposal. He's a good teacher, not like me. He's a good teacher. He knows how to use discipline sometimes and how to use be kind other times, right? He knows how to sometimes work his students hard, sometimes be nice to his students and let them off easy. You have to work with all these tools. That's called harmony, where I can work with all the tools at my disposal, even if they seem contradictory, because I have to use the right one at the right time and place. So for that, I have to think, okay, Hashem gave me all sorts of midos, all sorts of emotions, all sorts of talents. How am I going to work them all together to do the Ratzon Hashem? Okay, how am I going to put them in harmony with the Shiva Mucheres, because they have all come to strive to accomplish one goal. V'midas ha'isparus, and this is something where you can take pride in yourself. It's glorious for you. In binyan olam hazeh, if it's matters this world, and that's bad, right? I should have said it this way. What do you find glorious? Where do you use your power to harmonize? Where you try and use all your strengths? It could be matters of this world. Or in connection, in perfecting one's connection to Hashem. And remember, there's different ways to connect to Hashem too, right? Sometimes it's with simcha, like on a yotif. Sometimes it's with sadness, like on a fast day. Sometimes it's with focusing on learning. Sometimes focusing on davening. Sometimes focusing on chesed. There are all sorts of ways. What to me is something which is in proper harmony? My attitude towards things in this world, and using all my tools for this world, or using all my tools to accomplish what Hashem wants me to accomplish in this world. And a person, again, person can feel pride in this, a person can feel accomplishment in this, but a person can find pride and accomplishment in other things too. Where are you going to find your sense of pride? Where are you going to find your sense of accomplishments? What's going to be a Sefiros, something which you find glorious about yourself? Is it the ways of Hashem? It says, with this, a person can take pride in himself and can, so to speak, pat himself on the back because he wants to know Hashem and come connect to Hashem. If that's what gives him a sense of glory and pride, so then automatically, you're not going to then take pride in your own personal and selfish accomplishments, basically your own personal and selfish attainments, what you attain in this world. You find that the shleimus, which you accomplish in this world, in terms of your filling the Avodas Hashem, that's what gives you pleasure. Okay, so this is the pleasure which you get from your Avodas Hashem. So Tiferes is the sense of, look, I'm accomplishing so much for Hashem. I feel a sense of glory and all in the harmony which I have, and that I'm using all sorts of tools which I have at my disposal for the purpose of doing the Avodas Hashem in this world. Okay, so again, a person starts with choosing Hashem as the king. A person has a bris with Hashem, wants to connect to Hashem. A person then wants to have wants to finds that which is majestic and beautiful in his eyes is what Hashem wants to find majestic and beautiful. What's good for his spiritual growth. A person then wants to be victorious in getting over all the obstacles in his way to connect to Hashem and doing Hashem's ratzon. And finally, a person, not finally, but where we're up to is a person uses all his capacities, all his skills, all his talents, even those which are contradictory, like being sometimes soft and sometimes tough, in order to do the ratzon Hashem. And that's something which gives a person a sense of accomplishment, a sense of satisfaction, a sense of pride in what they're doing in this world. Then we have Vav, Gevura. Gevura is Gabus B'kal Keneged Kol Ma'akvim. To overcome with strength all things which stand in our way. Ima so to Torah Yisbarach, it's to do Ratzon Hashem. Afilu b'maasei hamulachim, and even in the deeds of the angels, Ne'emar kulam giborim. It's an amazing thing. It says, we say in Dami every morning that the malachim are giborim. Why have to be giborim? Why do malachim have to be powerful, strong heroes? Why do they have to overcome? No, even malachim have to overcome. You have to have gevura. And I think gevura translates in English best as, in this sense, tenacity. Sticking to it. In other words, a person that can have the idea of netzach, which is the natseach, to be victorious, but it's day in, day out, right? Sometimes a victory in a war, you finish the war. It's over, right? You don't have to keep on going. Gevura means you got to keep on going, because when one war is over, another war begins. Each day is a new war. Each day is a new battle. So the Gevura, a Malach has to have that as well. Of course, a Malach does what's right, because it's a Malach. But to do it over and over again requires Gevura, requires, again, in English, the word is tenacity, to stick to it. Okay, a koshke negra yetzar mesis, and certainly against the yetzar, which is constantly finding new ways to fight against you. He always has new ideas, so you have to always be ready. You can't just, as they say in English, rest on your laurels. Say, "Oh, I've already accomplished everything." Right? I have to keep on going and keep on trying to achieve more and more and more. The timer is when the shiur has to end in 2 minutes and 42 seconds, and sometimes end it quicker. So let's try and get the last one for now. Chesed. The ultimate thing is to give yourself to others. The idea was to give yourself to others means that I don't do all this for myself. I start off doing things for myself. That's the way it always is. But ultimately, I want to do it not just for myself, for Am Yisrael, for my friends, for the nation, for humanity. So for Hashem. To give myself over to others and completely negate myself in my love for others. In b'chesed kedusha, and that could be a chesed kedusha. That I love other people because I love Hashem. Hashem loves other people, and therefore I love other people, and I want what's best for them. Chesed detuma. And sometimes it's a chesed, which is tuma. In other words, I connect to other people in order not to help them out and help the world out and make the world a better place, but in order to plot with them to make the world a worse place, and to do all sorts of Avodas of all sorts. So therefore, the idea of ultimately, after I've done all these things in developing myself, I have to realize that ultimately it's not about me. It's about everybody together. It's about my connection to everybody else. And so it's a chesed of kedusha. It's supposed to chesed of tumah, which is chesed, which comes to kores. So that is the idea of doing things for not just myself. Even after I've accomplished lots of stuff for myself, I have to know it's not just for me. Everything I accomplish for myself is in order that I should be able to help others and give others and do for other people. And just like Hashem wants to do for everybody else, we should want to do for everybody else as well. Okay, we're running out of time. Maybe next time we'll get into it a little bit more, but it's a beautiful, beautiful idea. And I think there's a great introduction to how to serve Hashem going up from level to level. This is Hashem. See you guys tomorrow. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Bye.